So here's a list of 5 romantic symphony performances that I want to hear right now. Now, I've previously done videos on what I think are great recordings, but those aren't necessarily the ones that I want to hear right now. So let's take a look. Rachmaninoff's Second Symphony. Who doesn't love Rachmaninoff's Second Symphony? Now, in my greatest recordings video, I picked the 73 Previn recording and picked the Tamerkanov on EMI as my personal favorite. But the one I want to hear right now isn't either of those. It's this one, and this is a dark horse entry. Jesus Lopez-Cobos, Cincinnati, Telarc. Why this one? Well, I was living in Cincinnati for a while, and I did have a chance to hear Lopez-Cobos at work. And let me tell you, this is an underrated symphony and an underrated conductor. They were doing some really great work. What Lopez-Cobos does here is he plays this as a romantic German symphony. And what I mean by that is when I play this for people who I meet around here, I tell them, this is Brahms's 8th symphony. What do I mean by that? Well, if Brahms had lived another 40, 50 years, and if he was a little more romantic and maybe a little bit towards the Russian side, he might have written something like this, the way this one is performed. Telarc's sound is outstanding here, as it is with all of their recordings. Give this one a listen. Next on the list, Elgar's Second Symphony. And again, I'm going to deviate from the standard recommendation. Most people are going to tell you to get one of the Adrian Boult recordings, and I have those, and they're terrific also. But I'm picking this one, Bernard Haitink. On EMI, this is not one of the Concertgebouw Philips recordings. This is the Phiharmonia Orchestra. And yet he is able to get that same creamy, smooth sound out of the Philarmonia. You would think this might be a Concertgebouw recording. Okay, so I love the Second Symphony so much. I wish Elgar had written more of these symphonies. And in fact, when this came out, I was one of the first ones to get one. This is the reconstruction of the Third Symphony by Anthony Payne. It's pretty good. The first movement, I think, sounds a lot like Elgar. He left us less as time went on, and I think the symphony just kind of, they did their best. But let me tell you something about Bernard Haitink. It took me a long time to appreciate this conductor. I had bought into the stereotype that he was dull, that he was boring. Is he those things? No, he's not. And I'll tell you what did it for me. I saw him live in Boston conducting, and you can see the musicians respond. They are paying attention to every little gesture that he does. What you always hear is that Haitink live was better than Haitink in any recording studio. And I think the labels finally got wind of this and they started recording him live. So some of the later Philips recordings you see of him are much better than the studio recordings. Here's the thing about Haitink. You can't just listen to the performance once. Listen to it once, you might come away with very little impression and put the recording on the shelf and then never listen to it again. No, that's a mistake. You gotta keep listening to it. The more you listen to it, the more you appreciate what he's doing. And in fact, in the 4th movement of this Second Symphony, there's a romantic sweep and a grandeur that I have very rarely seen captured on any recording. And I want to hear this right now. Okay, every list like this needs a wild card entry. Something that looks like it doesn't belong, something that came out of left field, something you weren't expecting. And this is the entry in that list. Heinrich Gorecki, Symphony No. 3, the Symphony of Sorrowful Songs. So, first of all, does this even qualify as a romantic symphony? I don't know. Hey, it's my list, I'm putting it on here. So this is a very recent work, and it is fashionable among critics to bash this symphony. I don't know why, because it's popular, I guess. This recording sold over 1 million copies when it came out. That's a lot for a classical music recording. But it's 3 minimalist slow movements in a row, lasting about 55 minutes, and it is just gorgeous, sumptuous music making. They are based on texts. There's a singer, Dawn Upshaw in this case, in all 3 movements. The outer movements concern a mother addressing a child. The inner movement is the opposite. It's a child. It's based on some scrawlings that they found in a Gestapo prison by a young girl. And it's heavy stuff, but it is terrific music making. I don't know why people don't want to like this thing. I think you should give this thing a listen. If you haven't heard it, you're in for a real treat. So next on the list is Bruckner's 7th Symphony. I'm always ready to hear Bruckner's 7th Symphony, and my pick here is a fairly conventional one that makes most people's shortlist. It's Herbert von Karajan's final performance from April of 1989. This is his last recording. He died 3 months later. Now, sometimes these final recordings can have sort of a voyeuristic quality about them. Some of them aren't very good. I'm thinking mainly of the Bernstein Final Concert on DG with the Tanglewood Symphony. There's a Beethoven 7th on there and some Britten. Not sure those are great performances. I mean, I listened to it just because it was his final recording. But this is a case where he sounds like a vital man with a lot of things to say. Now, Herbert von Karajan is well known for producing some of the worst recordings ever made, and he made several hundred of them. So hearing this recording makes me wonder, like, where have you been all this time? Well, of course, we can forgive him. At the end of one's life, artists sometimes have different things to say to sum up what they were feeling all of their lives. And this is a recording you definitely shouldn't miss. For the record, this is a Haas recording. And finally, at number 1, we have Brahms' 2nd Symphony. But you're probably not going to guess the one that I'm going to pick. So if you ask me on any given day, I have 4 or 5, say, favorite symphonies that are go in rotation as to what I would pick as what I would call my favorite, and the Brahms 2nd is one of them. Now, if you're asking for some kind of consensus as to which one you should buy first, I'm not sure there's a real clear consensus on that one. If I had to pick one, probably this one, the Bruno Walter on CBS Sony. If you pick this one, it probably will cause the least amount of infighting among critics. This is a terrific recording, and you should get it. But no, I'm going to deviate from the standard recommendations once again and give you a dark horse recording, and it is this one. Carlo Maria Giulini, DG 1982, Los Angeles Philharmonic. Now, I know some of you are sitting there going, what? Bear with me on this one. This is a fantastic Brahms 2nd, and I don't want you to confuse this with the last recording that he made about 10 years later. That seemed to be more of the ramblings of an old man. Some people will accuse this recording of being the same thing, but it's not. He had things to say. Now, Giulini, of course, one of the great conductors of all time, needs no apologies and no introduction, but I'll hearken back to what I said about Bernard Haitink, in that sometimes on his performances, you can't just listen to them once, you've got to listen to them multiple times. And a good candidate for that particular category is the D.G. Mahler 9th in Chicago. Some critics sort of said, it's kind of lacking the vision and the conviction that he normally has. No, it's there. You've got to listen to it again. And it's the same thing with this one. It is a fantastic Brahms 2nd. And again, it doesn't reveal all of its secrets on first listening. In fact, when I first heard this, I didn't like this recording. But then I thought, well, there's a reason they put this out. So I listened to it again, and I listened to it again, and pretty soon I couldn't stop listening to it. And I want to hear this right now. So there you have it. There's my list. Number 5, number 4, number 3, number 2, and number 1. And when I put together this list, my criteria was, what am I going to listen to as soon as I get done here? So in looking at my list and having just talked about them, first of all, I'm sticking by my list. Those are the 5 I'm going with. But I think I'm going to change the order. The one that I'm going to listen to as soon as I get done here is this one. I'm going to go hear this right now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.